Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I am going to be talking about Donald Trump's easiest path to victory now that we've updated the polls with Kamala Harris versus Trump. I don't think I have actually done one of these where it is Kamala Harris and maybe things shift a little bit in terms of Trump's easiest path. So we've got all the proper swing states here. There are a few you could argue maybe are not swing states, like Minnesota with a few recent polls in favor of Harris, but right now around 219 to 196. If you did want to move Minnesota there, you would still have it at 219 to 206. So Trump with a little bit of an advantage, thanks mainly to Florida this election cycle not being a swing state. But when it comes to Trump's easiest path, if you're looking at 219, I would say out of all of these states, the most important one, believe it or not, you could argue is Georgia. Now, obviously, Pennsylvania has more electoral votes. North Carolina is also extremely important. But in this scenario, I think we can all agree. I'm actually going to darken that a little bit more. Based on what happened in 2016 and 2020, and now Trump's approval rating being significantly higher than either of those election cycles, the fact that he won North Carolina both times, the Democrats, I'm sure, are going to fight it. Let's be honest. I mean, it's some of the polls I've seen recently, there's only been a few, but with Kamala versus Trump, it's been close. It's not like Trump's up by 7 or 8, so I'm sure they'll fight it, but I do like North Carolina again to go to Trump, possibly with a little bit more breathing room, maybe by about 4 or 5 points there. So that would put Trump at around 235. With him just winning that single swing state, he needs 270. So the next one, I would say in terms of the easiest path, I would probably go Arizona and Nevada as the next two in terms of the easiest. I want to go Georgia, but I just don't know with Harris and how they weaponize all of the mail-in and all of the ballot harvesting. I think it would be Arizona and Nevada, and that would get Trump to 252. Arizona and Nevada, two states that seemingly are leaning Republican. Arizona, especially when you look at the voter registration. Nevada, I did see a poll today that had Harris up by 2 in Nevada, but a lot of these recent polls I don't necessarily trust. They seem like they're oversampling Democrats, honestly. I'll just be honest. So, that recent poll, listen, Nevada, Trump's been looking good in pretty much the entire election cycle. And Arizona, I think with Mark Kelly probably not getting picked, that should be a not an easy win for Trump, but its 11 electoral votes are very important. And Trump lost Arizona by literally nothing in 2020. So, this is a flip, but if you lose a state by 10,000 votes, it's barely a flip anyways. So that gets Trump pretty close. And then you could say, well, the easiest path would probably be Pennsylvania. However, if you did get Georgia, which I would hope Trump would get, that puts you at 268. Now, they are going to fight Georgia. I'm sure that's going to be a huge state for the Democrats. It's Georgia and North Carolina. Both of them have 16 electoral votes. The Democrats won Georgia barely. Very slim margins. We would expect Georgia, SEC country. We would want that to be a nice, healthy 7 or 8 point win, even with Atlanta, the major city there. That's obviously going to vote left for sure. But we want Georgia back. We don't want it to be a stressful swing state. This is very annoying. But at this point, they've made it a swing state. And so I do think Trump will get Georgia back. But we have seen some recent polls. They have been very close. But in terms of the easiest path, it's hard for me to say any one of these Rust Belt states are the easiest. Right now, it does seem like there are some underlying things that suggest maybe Wisconsin out of the 3 Rust Belt states might be the easiest in terms of that. You can see Trump at 268. Technically, he would only need 1 more electoral vote. So if you wanted to go the easiest route, you could go the 2nd district in Nebraska. I just don't know what is the status of that district. Republicans wanted Nebraska to be winner take all. Really, Nebraska and Maine should be winner take all. I think it's ridiculous that 2 states can't come together and do what everyone else is doing in terms of it. But that would get Trump to 269, and he would win. It would be a tie, but he would win. Now, is that necessarily easy for Trump to win that 2nd district? You could argue it. I mean, there's really only been one poll this election cycle. It had Biden up by, I think, 3. and Biden won it in 2020, I think by 6 points. And then in 2016, I do believe Trump carried that second district by maybe 4 or 5 against Hillary. So it's winnable. There's a limited population. It's going to swing. It's going to ebb and flow. Someone like Harris, I think Trump could very easily win the second district in Nebraska, honestly. But let's just say, for the sake of the argument, he doesn't end up winning it. So you would need, in terms of the next state, what is the easiest? I would probably go to Wisconsin. And I think that's where a lot of people would go. Wisconsin right now over Michigan, over Pennsylvania. Like, we're looking at polls, we're analyzing every little thing. Obviously, what happened with Michigan, that one poll that had Harris up by 11, I think we're going to look back on that and understand that was a snapshot crap poll right after all the Harris hype kicked off, and that poll was sampled probably exactly right after. Remember when all of that poll came out with all those swing states that said Harris was up? That was like a delay. They probably got the survey and the data from that right when all of that was kicking off, the artillery barrage from mainstream media. That's an inaccurate poll, and it's based on what's going on right now. So I think Michigan, Trump can absolutely win it, even with that recent poll that had Harris plus 11, because that same pollster did have Pennsylvania as Trump plus 4, which makes no sense. Now, Pennsylvania, it'll be interesting. Seems like it's Tim Walz against Josh Shapiro right now. If Josh Shapiro does get picked, you're going to get all the libs immediately saying, oh, Harris is going to win Pennsylvania. It's probably going to have maybe a 1/4 of a point impact, possibly a 1/2 point if you want to be bullish on it. The VP does not impact the race very much, but you could argue that if Shapiro is picked, she would become a slight favorite in Pennsylvania. But I would say this is probably the easiest path. You don't need either of these. I mean, obviously, Virginia would be great to get. We were thinking, when Biden was in the race, it was a very interesting time. We were thinking New Mexico. We were thinking New Jersey. We were thinking New York. We were thinking Minnesota. We were thinking Virginia and, New Hampshire as well. But at this point right now, it seems like, it's going to be a little bit tougher for Trump to win those states. But I would say this would be the easiest combination. When you look at the swing states, it would be a Wisconsin. Really, it's just one of the three. It's one of the 3 Rust Belt states. As long as you can hold, we would hope North Carolina would be not totally in the bag, but definitely leaning to Trump. Georgia is the big one, and then Arizona and Nevada. You get those 2, you're looking very good because you can afford to lose New Hampshire, you can afford to lose the Maine at-large, you can afford to lose Michigan, Pennsylvania, and still win, along with losing Minnesota as well, and also that second district in Nebraska. So you could lose all of those and still win as long as you're able to retain North Carolina, and then you flip Georgia back, which is nothing. I mean, he lost it by nothing in 2020. He lost Arizona by nothing. Nevada's been trending Trump heavily this entire cycle. This is probably the easiest one you could do. Now, technically, if you wanted to, involve less states, just have Trump winning Pennsylvania, you could do something like Harris winning out west, although I don't think this is going to happen because, not that they forfeited these states, but it seems like they're really focusing on the Rust Belt. And I'm guessing what Harris is focusing on, or their campaign, it's probably the Rust Belt and also Georgia. Because I wonder, let me just do something. I wonder what the math looks like for her if she, takes, let's just say that, and that. She's at 251 now, and she would also take that. So she'd be at 264 with some options left. Also, you'd have to say probably New Hampshire as well, and then Maine. See, that's probably their easiest path, honestly, the Democrats. It's taking back Georgia. Or you could say taking both Nevada and Arizona, but they're losing both of those states right now, and that's 2 states you have to take. Because that's a combination of 17 electoral votes. This is a combination of 16, but for them, they really want Pennsylvania. They probably want to sweep the Rust Belt, but you can't really rely on that. Some people think, well, it'll be a split. We really can't predict it because it's going to be so close. So if it is a split and the Democrats get 2 of them and they also get Georgia, they would be in a very good spot to where they wouldn't even need Nevada or Arizona. So for Trump, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the states you're leading in currently. And then even in a situation like this Georgia is like the decider in this, I think, just looking at this, because that's the one state. I mean, there could be a lot of deciders, North Carolina, things like that, but North Carolina has been a Trump state recently. Georgia's been a pure swing. Trump won it in 2016. He lost it in 2020. Just trying to think through this, I think the easiest path would be not including Michigan and Pennsylvania right now for Trump, not including Virginia, obviously, not including Minnesota, not including Maine at large, not including New Hampshire. It would be what I just said. It's making sure you hold on to North Carolina, you take Georgia, you take the 2 out west that you're leading in, and you really don't have to worry about Michigan, the weird polling that's going on there. I think Trump can still win it. The Pennsylvania problem as well, it's Shapiro, it's maybe he gives her that extra boost because it's going to be very close, there's no doubt. But that's not to say, I mean, you know, her picking Josh Shapiro causes her to win that state. That's ridiculous. That's why you've got all the top Democrats saying, no, don't pick him, pick someone else. If he was going to give her the state, they would just automatically pick him. So this is what we're looking at right now. This is the strategy. You don't want to be reliant on the Rust Belt, but honestly, if I had to do a prediction, I think Trump wins all the Rust Belt states, maybe outside of Pennsylvania, but he can still take Pennsylvania as well. And in this scenario, you do have Trump. I'll give Harris the second district. This gets Trump to the 312 to 226 model. It's the full Rust Belt, basically all the swing states. The next expanded swing states, Minnesota and Virginia, would still be Biden leans, or excuse me, Harris leans. And so that's probably how I would do that right there. Until we get more polling out of Virginia and Minnesota, I would say they are Harris leans right now, but we will have to see. So this could be a good, accurate prediction, although if you want to say, well, Trump's not going to win every swing state, you can do something like that. Arizona and Nevada, I just don't think Harris is going to win either of those states. So if you want to do something like that, that would also be, I would say, semi-accurate. But that was just Donald Trump's easiest path to victory in 2024, guys. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.